from him. Great story. So I'm looking forward to hearing yours and how you guys
My
make
story is
a
very
couple.
different, very different. So anyone who's heard his story, mine's very different.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So let's get started. So guys, I met Maritsa. I was doing a class about 5 years ago, and it was a very male-oriented class. A lot of men sitting there, and they kept us saying, "Who's that? Is that Kim Kardashian teaching the class?" I remember that. I remember that comment. I think you were pregnant with your second one. You were about to be one or the other. And I came up to you. I said, "Listen, you're very. I love your style. I want you to meet my wife. She never. You have not met you guys." But man, I think you'll really appreciate you. We started talking, and you're like, you know my husband. And I'm like, who's your husband? Joe Kelley. And I turn around, and there he is with his muscles walking in the room. And from there on, we've been really good friends. We lost a few mutual friends of ours over the years, which so it's been a little journey with us, our group here. So, Marissa, thank you for joining. For me, I always look at you like Wonder Woman. You're a mother, you're a wife, you're a professional entrepreneur, you're a speaker, you taught money classes. And the reason I thought about you today is that I think men and women sometimes get bogged down with excuses. Oh, I can't do this. I can't do that. I can't do this because I have a husband, I have a wife, I have kids, I have this. And I'm like, who else better to have than you to come in here and join us? So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much. And I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
So we'll get into it.
Let's get into it. So Marissa, tell me, where were you born and raised?
So I was born, actually, Joe and I are both from Massachusetts. So I was born in Massachusetts, Wellesley, Massachusetts. And I relocated to South Florida in the late 80s. So like 87, I came down here. And I've been in South Florida ever since. So between, West Palm Beach, Fort Lauderdale, and South Miami, and, leaving for a couple of years to go to college and do that sort of thing. But I consider myself a South Florida girl. So even though I wasn't born here, I was raised here and I'm raising our children here.
Yeah, I sometimes I follow you. We follow each other on Facebook. I see that Homestead. I think your mother is from Homestead, right?
So my dad's Cuban. And so a lot of Cubans are down in like the Homestead area, like South Miami. So even further south, so more closer to like Florida City. So it's called like the Redlands. The Redlands kind of hit the map during Hurricane Andrew. So we were down in the Redlands till 92 when Hurricane Andrew hit and then relocated. So my dad actually still drives from Wellington to South Miami, which is about a 2.5-hour drive. And he's almost 80 years old. And he still makes that drive like 3 or 4 times a week, 2.5 hours each way.
Wow. That's crazy. Yeah, I'm from South Florida, as you know, and and Redlands is really down there. Marissa, so mom and dad together, any siblings?
Yeah, so my mom and dad are still together and I have 4 sisters. So we're all really close, have a really great relationship. In fact, we actually have a group text. We were texting this morning. We all just spent Thanksgiving together. And then I'm actually like Joe and I are going up. One of my sisters still lives in Massachusetts. So we're actually flying up to spend a holiday with her for New Year's and right after Christmas.
That's awesome. Awesome. So tell me about you growing up. Were you from a upper middle class, high class, a lot of money growing up, a lot of, what was your story like?
Yes, and yes. So I think during the 80s, a lot of things changed. So my dad's side of the family. So my dad moved here from Cuba when he was only 20 years old. He defected from Cuba. And so when he came here, he didn't have anything and he was like a real entrepreneur, just built up this like huge empire of women's gyms in the 70s and 80s. And met my mom. So they're still together. They've been together almost 50 years. And when we were, first born, we were, raised up in a, Weston, Massachusetts, which is like a very like posh area. And then my parents went through a series of like, having money, not having money, having money, not having money. It went from like, taking cars, private cars places, to buying presents at Goodwill. And actually I have a funny story. So to kind of give you like an indication, is like, I remember going to a friend's house growing up, and our friends had this like game, right? Like Monopoly or whatever it was, right? And we're playing this game, and I was playing it wrong because I guess the game that my mom had gotten from Goodwill didn't have all the pieces. So my mom wrote her own rules to the game. So we played this game in accordance to like the rules that my mom had created based on the pieces that we had. So it's like one of those funny things that we kind of talk about, because regardless of whether, and this is what I try to keep true in my family, is that regardless of how much or how little money that we've had, one thing that we've always had abundance of is love for each other. And so that's kind of one of the things. So yeah, sometimes we have a lot of money.
That. So he had money and he lost it?
Yeah, so my dad went through a series of different business deals when he left the women's health spa industry. So he had started a franchise of 89 women's health spas called Women's World in the 70s and 80s. And when he left that, there was it's kind of like finding your way, like, what else am I going to do? And he started in the plant nursery industry. And the plant nurseries are very like fickle, because now you're not dealing with people, but you're dealing with not livestock, but like something that you have to grow and cultivate. So when you're growing and cultivating something, it's not like a business to where it's like you hire an employee and that employee either does well or not well, and then you hire another employee. But if you spent 6 months growing this one plant, and then all of a sudden there's like an infestation, or one of the things that happens, I believe it was in 89, there was a freeze. And when the freeze happened, he was newer to the industry and he lost everything.
Wow.
Like everything that he had. So from there was now rebuilding. And as he was rebuilding, then got everything building again, was doing really well. And then in 1992, we had Hurricane Andrew. And we were, down right in the midst of everything. And when I tell you, we lost everything. Like, I always laugh when people are like, fill up your cars with gas. And I'm like, yeah, if it's a real hurricane, when you go outside, your car is not going to be there. Because I remember being 11 years old and going outside and literally dragging soaking wet carpet, because, back then it was all carpet, pulling it from our house and having to drag it to the middle of our field. Because our house was under 4 or 5 inches of water. And when we went to my dad's farm, there was literally nothing there. So it's been a lot of like up and down, for like the past 30 years, building and losing.
Wow.
Building and losing.
How old were you when Andrew happened? I was there, by the way, but yeah, how old were you?
Oh, now you want to know how old I am.
If I put timelines here.
So I was 10. So I'm 41 now. So it was 30 years ago was Andrew. So I was 10 at the time. So we literally had 11 people in a walk-in closet. So we had started off in like a T-shaped hallway. And if anyone was in that storm, like the whole hallway literally imploded. So like, being 10 years old, you don't know what's going on, and you're sitting in this hallway and all of a sudden like glass is flying on your head. So I had seen on the TV that we should go into a closet and put a mattress against the wall. I'm like, we need to go in the closet. And I'm like, I'm 10 years old coming up with this. And it was crazy. My dad was standing there holding on to the attic hatch because our roof was being lifted up and dropped. My uncle was holding on to my dad and I was holding on to my uncle. And we were like literally being, sucked up.
Wow. That's insane. I was there for Andrew. I was visiting from Brooklyn, New York. And I remember I was in Broward County. We had it bad, but not as bad as you, because I went down to your area to help people out. Our local mosque had got people together. And I remember I'm a year younger than you, I'm 40. And I was 8, 9 years old at that time. And I was like, wow. That was horrible. Andrew was really a life changing for many, many people. And thank God we bounced back from there. Okay, so he lost it again. So you're watching this as an 8, 9, 10-year-old girl. It's like up and down entrepreneurship. What happened next?
So we ended up, so what happened next was a little hard, because being 10 years old, and I was the oldest who lived in my house. So I have 2 little sisters and 2 older sisters, but my older sisters are much older. And my little sisters were all like kind of right in a row. So I was 10, my sister was 8, my other sister was about 7 or 6 at the time. So we went and stayed with my aunt in Broward County for, a few weeks, a month, what have you. Time is kind of weird at that time. And then eventually we went to go stay with my grandmother because, who was in Wellington. And the hopes were that insurance was going to pay out and we were going to be able to like rebuild our lives, back in Miami. My life in Miami was very different than my life in Wellington. And I wasn't ready to give up that life that I had in Miami, because if anyone who knows South Miami, like it's like rural, like everyone like knows everyone. There wasn't like a Publix or like a Walmart or something. There was like this place called Coffee's, which was probably like 1,500 square feet. And that's where you did your grocery shopping. Like it was very like, I don't even want to call it like backwoods, but it was just like country and, yeah. And everyone knew each other. So like, that was like kind of where I grew up with. So I wasn't like, I moved to this place, and Wellington now is small compared to where we live now. But it was like almost like a culture shock. Like, oh my God, like you just took me out of like my little country town where there was like 1 5th grade with like 13 kids in it. And now I'm in this like huge school, and it was hard. Like, it was like, oh, what do I do? Because my parents also were trying to rebuild. And unfortunately, the insurance companies went bankrupt. So we never got any insurance money. So my parents, we lost our house, we lost our cars, we lost our business. And we had 4 of us sleeping in one room at my grandma's house for, I want to say it was probably over a year. Like I said, we made do, but it was like weird. Like here, like we are going to school. I had no clothes. All my clothes were gone. So people were doing their best to like donate clothes to us. But I think some of the things that you don't realize is, and looking back, so I ended up, and we'll get into this, but I ended up becoming a teacher. And I think like my empathy and for kids is so great because I understand what it's like to be that little kid who didn't have any money and just had to wear the clothes that I had. And being in 6th grade and like already being kind of like awkward because I had a perm. At the time. So, cause it was like kind of like the thing, I guess, maybe not. So, here I had like this like awkward haircut. Now I have these like awkward clothes, and I'm going through these like weird hormones. I don't have my parents. And so it was a lot of transition. So it was very difficult. And it kind of probably carried out throughout my high school career as well. Because, we were always waiting like, okay, well, we're going to go back home because Wellington really wasn't becoming home, if that makes sense.
That's crazy. Wow. Oh man, your earlier years were tough.
Yeah, it was a lot of moving around, a lot of moving pieces. My parents wouldn't really tell us when we were moving. All of a sudden, like a car would show up and like, we'd be like, okay, well, this is our new house now. And it was kind of like a shock because, being a mom, and not that, like my parents, like they're amazing people. And I know that they did whatever they felt was best at that time. But for me, it created a lot of like, possibly like anxiety, like the unknown of like, okay, well, like every time I leave the house, am I going to a new house? Am I going to go back to my house? Like, where are my things? So 2 things can happen at that point is one, you either become really attached to your things and to people in your life, or you become really detached from the things and the people in your life. And I went the latter. I became very detached. Like I don't have things. I'm not sentimental. I don't collect things. I don't want to say I lose things, but like things to me are not like important and they don't carry any type of sentimental value because I've been in so many places in my life where literally I've lost every single thing that I cared about. And then going into the field that I work in, I've lost a lot of people that I care about. So at some point in my life, I was just kind of like, okay, like I just kind of just go with the flow. Like I don't have things, I don't have people. It's just, if you're there, cool. If not, that's cool too. So it was difficult to kind of come out of that and recognizing that as a trauma response.
Wow. Yeah. So you're saying due to the constant moving in uncertainty, right? What's next, where we're going to be, the way you coped, it was to just kind of push back, detach, and roll with it.
Yeah. And I thought I was like being easy and being like very, kind of go with the flow. But in actuality, I was scared to love something, like whether it was like a doll. And, this could go back, I lost my favorite Cabbage Patch doll when I was a kid in a fire at my grandmother's house. And, just like constantly, and you don't think about those things. Like, you're like, it's a doll, but it's like, but when that doll is your best friend, or when like that blanket is the thing that comforts you. And when you lose those things, like, yeah, you finally either come to a place where now you start to hoard and everything is mine, 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 or you get to that other place where you're just like, whatever, like, it doesn't even matter. So, and I went to the doesn't even matter part.
That's insane. Were you a good student?
So I was.
That's basically, oh, sorry for interrupting.
Sorry.
So I was for a little bit, growing up through about fourth grade. I worked really hard up until middle school, and I did my best. I didn't realize up until probably like my late 20s that I had undiagnosed dyslexia, both auditory and visual dyslexia. So I didn't realize that I was going through that till I actually started doing my own brain scans on myself. So for me, school was frustrating when I was doing things that I didn't like things that had orders of operation, like things with memorization, like reading was super easy. Certain things, like if I liked it, I would listen, or if I listened to you, KB, and I was like, oh, I love what he's saying, like I would take in all that information. But if you handed me like a math problem and I had to remember X plus Y, C like equals, I would be like, yeah, and it was that order of operations, even in like dance class at school, like where you have to remember certain steps in a certain sequence. Like I would know all the steps, but sequentially I would mess it up. So I tried really hard to be a good student. And then I didn't realize that there were things coming up like my ADHD and my dyslexia, which were creating difficulty. And I'm sure that a lot of that had to do with, a lot of the things that had taken place and a lot of the just never feeling settled. Because when you don't feel settled, obviously your attention is affected as well.
Did you go to college?
I did. So I ended up my senior year of high school. I had a really hard time. So, and also too, like I think in early years in high school, I kind of started experimenting with drugs and alcohol. And I don't ever say like I never became like addicted to drugs and alcohol, but they definitely impacted my ability to do my best. And I also had some friendships that probably weren't the best. So when I was in my senior year of high school, I was only 16 going into my senior year of high school. I decided like that school had been way too difficult. I had kind of checked out and I wasn't really looking to go to college. I was kind of done. I was already really into fitness at the time. So for me, I wanted to become a personal trainer. I wanted to work on people with mindset and getting their bodies right. I had been into fitness my whole life. And it's like one of the things that really like helped me to ground myself. So it was really important. So I finished high school and I decided to maybe go to community college and just take some classes in nutrition and like the basic things. And I found that when I was in college, that I felt much more supported than I did in high school. High school, I felt like a lot of the teachers were just kind of like more focused on, we live in South Florida, it's hot. Like, I wear shirts like this, or like, and I'll wear a jacket, but, I have a long torso. So if I would raise my arm to like raise my hand in class, I'd get sent to the office for dress code violation. So in college, I felt like it was much more supported and much more focused around education and like supporting you to be the best version of yourself rather than like yelling at you because of your belly button, right? So I actually enjoyed community college so much that I started taking different classes and I got my associate's degree. And then I went on to UCF, which I did not enjoy because the beach was too far away. So I was only there for like a year, but I ended up coming back to FAU, got my bachelor's degree in social psychology with a minor in cognitive neuroscience. And then I was like, okay, now what? So I was kind of like hanging out on the beach for a little bit. I decided that I was teaching high school. So I went back to become a teacher of high school. And one of the reasons is that I wanted to give like the kids that were like myself, who maybe felt like lost and like didn't really like have, like, not that I didn't have support, but didn't feel supported in any way. Cause I didn't have like a clique, like, like in high school, it's really important to have a clique, right? Like everyone, like you're either like a jock or you're like a nerd or you're on the cheerleading team. Like
The
I was
pretty girl, the handsome boy, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was kind of like friends with everyone. So I was kind of friends with no one because I was kind of like, again, like that attachment. Like I didn't want to attach to anyone because like, you're going to become my best friend. And then all of a sudden, like, that internal, like, you're going to leave me or I'm going to leave. And then like this whole relationship was a waste of time because there wasn't social media. There wasn't cell phones like that. So I didn't really build any like deep relationships throughout my schooling ever. And I still, I'm working in my 40s. I'm working on building those relationships. And in my late 30s, I started, but even in my 20s and 30s, I never built those friendships and relationships. Like Joe and I didn't meet till like my mid 30s and then got married, so, and Joe's kind of my first relationship where I built that deep connection with. But yeah, I went on to get my master's. After teaching high school, I decided I wanted to do more to help people. I got my master's in mental health counseling, ended up getting my doctorate in counseling ministries. And then I've continued, and now I teach and I continue to take classes, which is to me so weird because like, I remember like I was so repulsed by school growing up. So, miracles happen, I guess.
That's insane. Yeah. Let's go back a few steps. Drugs in high school.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always always curious why. Look, everyone, most kids come across drugs in high school and they try stuff, right? Except for my wife. She did. She was a straight lace, but I was the opposite. I was the bad boy, right? Why do you think now what you know, and and the doctorate you have? Why do you think that you went towards drugs in high school? Was it the detachment issue? Was it the trauma?
So for me, I honestly think at that point in my life, I just didn't care. Like, I didn't care. I stopped. There was a point in my life where I kind of like checked out. And I want to say it was between the ages of like 12 and 15, to where I was just kind of like, can I curse on here?
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of like, fuck it.
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't care because I looked at my life and I'm like, I don't care if I live or die. Like I've already been in like kind of like life or death situations. Like I didn't see a future for myself. I didn't see anything that I liked. I didn't like myself at that moment because, I didn't have friends really. I didn't have, like, my friends were always better friends with each other than they were with me, if that makes sense, or like that's how it felt. Like I always felt like I was like a third wheel. So I didn't feel like I had good friends. I didn't feel like I had good relationships. I didn't feel like I was succeeding in any area of my life. And I just like, I felt sad and I felt hurt. And like, I don't want to say like drugs made it better, because they definitely didn't make it better,
No,
but it kind of gave me something to do. And like, I was good at that. Like I could do drugs pretty good. But it just kind of gave me a moment to just be like, fuck it. Like, I just really don't care. Like if I die, I die. Like, it's all right. Probably nobody's going to miss me, kind of thing.
wow, that's pretty dark.
Yeah, it was, I mean, I definitely went through like a little dark stage. I mean,
I think probably what lack of connection, maybe, right?
yeah, I had no connection with anyone. I
Yeah.
was very, very disconnected from people, places, things. I just was like, okay.
Wow, that's crazy. That's insane. I would not think. We have mom and dad, right? I have divorced family, right? And they say the divorced individuals with mom and dad are separated, likely to have tried something in their teenage years. But that shows you, even with a mom and dad, a loving marriage, you have struggles, right?
Yeah. And I think too, with everything that my parents were going through, that it was difficult for them as well. Like looking back now as an adult, as a mom who's gone through different trials and tribulations through my parenting, through my growth and development. And I have resources. I have way more resources than my parents ever had, especially knowing what I know and the education that I have and the support systems and the ability to even like be able to get on a phone call and call somebody, to where it's like, I look at my parents and like, they didn't have that. So with them not having that, it made it difficult for them to know how to properly support us. And my parents did a lot for us. I mean, and I don't want to, like, my parents are incredible. Like they still do a lot for me and my
Did
sisters.
the best they can with what they had.
Yeah, like my mom would take me ice skating at like 5 o'clock in the morning, and we would drive all the way to Sunrise from Wellington.
Wow.
But like, I don't ever remember somebody asking me about how I felt, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. Like, so there were certain things that they did great. Like they would do for us, they would try to, support us financially, but I felt like emotionally, maybe sometimes, that I wasn't as supported.
That's so funny, Maritsa, you're saying that. Like, I talk to that with my friends too. Like from a Pakistani household brought up in Brooklyn, New York, very similar. They did the best they can, but they didn't never care to ask like if you lost someone as a kid, are you okay? Like, listen, this is a process of life. You want therapy. They don't. They don't. I don't think they know that. I think now I talk to same parents, and they're more aware now, consciously aware. But I think most of us here, we're all from the 80s, I think here. Yeah, that generation parents, I think also they're immigrants, right? My parents were immigrants.
Yes.
And it's tough. I think everyone on this call right now is either from another country or parents from another country. Edison, you're same thing, right? I mean, you told me your parents were not as, open to you, Edison, growing up.
Yeah, man. I mean, my story is I'm adopted. So, my biological mom lives in Colombia. I never met her. My dad just passed away. My biological father passed away this year. So never really got to really know my biological parents, but I was raised by my aunt and uncle, and but it was a very old school way of growing up, man. One thing I did learn from my parents was work ethic. My father, I mean, he's the epitome of work ethic. I mean, this guy was up at 5 o'clock in the morning to do his prayers, do a quick little bit of jumping jacks, his jump rope, take a shower, and then go to work all the way to 5, 6 o'clock in the afternoon. But then he was always in a bad mood.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But that's my story. I want to go back to you, Maritsa. So, and that's actually funny that you asked me that question, because the question that I have for you, Maritsa, it's a two-part question. Number one, right now you have your mental wellness, and you're also a health counselor, correct?
Yes.
Right. So you have your own practice, your own shop, pretty much.
Yeah, so we do things a little bit differently. So I owned drug and alcohol treatment centers. After finishing graduate school, I opened up my first treatment center, and I consulted with drug treatment and wellness centers for the first 15 years of my career. Then in 2015, I sold those, and I went more into 2012. I had like this whole like spiritual awakening. where I started getting more into like meditation
Ayahuasca.
and mindfulness. Well, you know what happened is I ended up in the hospital. I was running a multi-million-dollar business in my early 20s as a single mom. And, you know, I ended up in the hospital because my body was like shutting down. I was laying on the couch and I was literally like, my whole body was like gyrating. And here I am, not on drugs, not drinking, not doing anything. And my whole body is like going like that. And I was like, I'm gonna die. And so I went into yeah, well, no, I was actually, my blood pressure was like 180 over whatever, and my resting heart rate was 177.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So my body was just like freaking out. And we had a medical director who worked for me, and she sent me straight to the emergency room, and they started doing like an EKG. And they saw that my CPK levels were raised. You know, everything was raised. And I was like, what do I do? Do I need to take something? Like, what? I got to go back to work. And she looks at me and she's like, so there's this thing called meditation. I suggest trying it. And I was like, no, I don't think so. Like, I would like, go fast, do more, you know, like, you know, what else can I do?
Blind, right?
Yeah. So from there I started the meditation, and then that led me into like falling in love with meditation and mindfulness and yoga. And just for the first time in my life, Edison, the first time in my life, I actually felt at peace with myself. And I was like, oh, wow. Like, I almost like want to cry thinking about it, because it was such like
Awakening, right?
yeah, like, I mean, to spend like almost like like I get like emotional thinking about like to spend like almost like 30 years of my life in this like high stress state where it's like, if you have a car and you know the car's in park and you just slam down on the gas and you hear that, that's how I felt inside every day, all day. But I was just burning through like fuel, but it wasn't going anywhere, if that makes sense, you know. And so I started in 2015, I started our wellness center, and we started teaching classes and just training people and training therapists and coaches on how to train their clients on reaching this level of mindfulness and self-love, and just showing them how when you reach that level personally, professionally, your relationships get better, your business gets better, your parenting gets better, your sex life gets better, your relationship with your family gets better. Like, just like everything gets better when you like yourself. Yeah. Everything gets better when you're at peace with yourself. You know, you don't notice as much road rage. You're not as acute psychosis, craziness as you are. And so like, that's kind of like what we do now is we teach people how to just like master themselves. So like our motto is like, master your mind, master your body, and master yourself. And it's teaching self-mastery. So that's why we named the company Obtaining Mastery, because I think once you taste true life mastery, like everything else just makes sense. And then you do want to live, and you do want to go further.
Absolutely. So,
Wow.
so my next question was, Maritsa, so have you always had this entrepreneurial bug in you? And is there a direct correlation to your dad or your grandfather owning that plant nursery, right? So has that always been in your family, and did that get passed on to you?
So my dad actually started in women's health spas, and he started, he had 89 of those. And then he started the plant nurseries. So my grandfather in Cuba, he worked in casinos. And then my mom's parents, my grandmother came from England, and my grandfather worked in corrections most of his life. So like all hard workers. For me, I feel like I've always had like an entrepreneurial bug in me, just learning. And I've always had like this this drive. I started a lemonade stand, but it wasn't basic lemonade. It was like, I mean, remember like back in the day, oh my gosh, I'm gonna go so like ghetto right now. Remember like the frozen lemonade that you would add to water and like mix it up?
Oh my God. Yeah, I remember that.
So I would use that and I would add a secret ingredient, which was fresh lime and a little bit of Sprite, right? So it would make like almost like a limeade, like a limeade salsa. And I would sell that for $2.50. So I would have people like come over and I'd sell that, or I love to bake and I still love to bake and cook. And I would sell like the different like things that I would bake or cook. And I started making money that way. I worked at my dad's farm from when I was 8 years old. My dad would give us $20 a week. Now I realize I was grossly underpaid. But we would do cuttings. So if you know anything about plant nurseries, you have to like cut and cultivate. And like little kids' fingers are the best for cuttings because one, we don't care if our fingers get dirty because we love dirt as little kids. And two, your fingers are really small to do the potting. So I would literally sit there with my big hat in my like little like tank top with my little Barbies sitting next to me, and I would do the cuttings, and I was so fast. And I started like an assembly line. So my sister would dip, my other sister would cut, and I would pot. And I made $20 a week. I would go to on Friday, my mom, our boss lady, would take us to Toys R Us, and I'd be able to buy either a new Barbie or, you know, something with that. So yeah, I think I've always kind of had that drive, that entrepreneurial drive in me. And it's now gotten a little bit better as I've become more aware of certain things that need to be in place to make it even more successful.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm loving it. I wish you had more time to get to know you better, but I want to get to some more meat and potatoes. Usually these segments, I want people to walk away with something that they can apply
Absolutely.
today. So I think one thing that you bring to this table that a lot of our panelists, KB and everybody else, hasn't really brought, which is a spiritual side. For one, I have a little altar here. I'll be honest with you. I've kind of lost track of it. I haven't been meditating the way I'm supposed to be. I kind of put it to the side. I mean, it could be stress. Like, I don't know what it is, right? Maybe that's something you and I can talk about afterwards. Right. But I honestly believe though, because when I do that, I have a sense of peace when I'm doing that, right? And it helps me get aligned so that the rest of my day goes according to plan, or at least try to go according to plan, right? But what are some of the basic steps that or fundamentals that you can say, hey, listen, if you guys just focus on these 3 steps or 5 steps, whatever, or there's one thing today, you can start changing your life around. What would that be?
Right. So I'll break it down into 5 tips to enhance your overall wellness. The first tip is, it's going to sound so stupid and so basic. Drink water. Drink water. 90% of the people I work with are dehydrated. Drink water. Water is, I tell people, like, we're basically houseplants with complicated emotions. When you drink water, it will change your life. You know, your body is over 70% of water. So when you're dehydrated, your brain is not functioning properly, your body is not functioning properly, and your sleep is your sleep is going to be impacted.
But what about this? Is it a myth though? Because I read an article, or not, I didn't read it. I saw the headline where it says drinking 8 cups of water a day, it's a myth. Is that a myth? Do you recommend the 8 cups of water, or what would you say?
Yeah, I recommend 8 cups of water. Yeah. I would say at least 6, especially like we live in South Florida. So I'm assuming everyone here is in Florida, right?
For Orlando. Yeah.
Orlando.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
I don't know if Jacksonville counts as Florida though.
Yeah, I love Jacksonville. Yeah, so we're sweating. So in Florida, we need more water and even some electrolytes in. So like some Pedialyte or something, like even adding a little bit of sea salt to your water, a little bit of lemon to make it alkaline water. But drink water. It's going to keep your body and your system going. And also to remembering, if you're drinking caffeine, that's going to deplete your body of certain nutrients that it needs, and can lead to higher risk of osteoporosis if that is something that runs in your family. So just be aware of that. So caffeine depletes calcium from the body.
So I gotta get rid of this cup then.
You don't have to get rid of the cup. I just, I see some people who drink like 6 or 7 cups a day.
Oh, no.
I definitely wouldn't do that. And I definitely would say energy drinks are hard no.
Horrible. Yeah.
Horrible for you.
Tons of caffeine, yeah.
Tons of caffeine and just like a lot of other additives that are just really not healthy for you. My tip number 2 would be sleep. Sleep, please sleep. You'll like yourself better when you sleep, and you will like other people better when you sleep. So my recommendation is for women and men who are over the age of 25 is to get at least 8 hours. Women typically who are going through menopause might need a little bit more, maybe 9 or 10 hours. Same with women who are have their period or who are pregnant. So sometimes when your body's going through those hormonal changes, your body needs a little bit more rest, because remember, our bodies repair itself when it sleeps. So make sure that you get enough sleep. Tip number 3, healthy fats. Healthy fats. They are your friends. Avocado is great. Walnuts are great. Get your healthy fats in. Good for your brain, good for your body. You can use avocado oil. Try to stay away from like the regular oils, because a lot of the regular oils, unless you know you're getting like real olive oil or something, most of the oils are actually synthetic. So you don't necessarily know what you're putting in your body. So that's step number 3. Tip number 4 would be give yourself enough time. Give yourself enough time during the day. Most of us are rushing through our day without a plan. Failure to plan is planning to fail.
Big one.
So, it's, you know, when you go through your day, it should be intentional, right? I don't take phone calls that are not scheduled. I do my best to avoid text messages because it fills your chunks. I know sometimes in certain industries it's a little unavoidable, but the thing is that when you're constantly bombarded with text messages and phone calls that are not helping you to be intentional in your day, then what happens is that fills your chunks with nonsense. So, you know, have your clothes picked out for you in the morning already. If you're planning on going to the gym, have the gym clothes picked out. If you're going to meditate, have your space set up for you, your coffee pot, your teapot, whatever need prepped the night before. So all you have to do is boom, 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 and give yourself the time and the space. So you're not going, okay, I got to meditate now. Okay, I have 10 minutes to meditate. Okay, I'm done meditating. Now I get to go to the gym, and I'm going to the gym, and I'm going to the gym. And the whole time I'm at the gym, I'm like freaking out because I'm stressed out because I have this meeting that now I'm not going to be able to wash my hair and shower. So now I'm just going to throw on other clothes. Don't do that. Don't do that. Give yourself the time and the space so that you're suiting up as the best version of yourself. Because here's the thing, you deserve the best version of yourself. And the people who are choosing to spend time with you deserve the best version of you as well. So when you show up as not the best version of yourself for you and for other people, don't be surprised when all of a sudden the way that your life is ending up isn't as expected. I use this analogy, Edison. If I'm planning on going to California, right? And I'm going to LAX airport, right? I'm flying into LAX. And my pilot doesn't feel like being 100% that day. He only feels like being 98%.
Yeah.
His 98%, like we think like, okay, am I committed to my goals? Am I committed to my day? Am I committed to myself? And we're like, yeah, I did like 70%. I feel good about it. Well, if you were a pilot and you were doing 70%, guess what? You're probably going to end up in Las Vegas, not at LAX. And that's a big deal, because your car's not there. That's not where your goals were. Yeah. So for yourself,
I love that analogy. I love it.
Yeah. So that's tip number 4. And tip number 5 is cut out the noise. And you know what I mean by noise. I don't even have to explain it. It's all of that is not helping you to be the best version of yourself. Cut it out. just don't complain about it. Don't bitch about it. Don't vomit the noise on other people. Just cut it out.
What's an example of noise, right? Just to kind of clarify that, right? Because
If you don't like the news, don't watch the news.
I was about to say that right now, media.
Yeah, the media, social media. Like I see people complain about social media. If I don't like something someone posts over and over again, I have two choices. I can unfollow them or I can delete them. And I don't have to sit there and look at their stuff all the time, because then I'm making a conscious choice to be aggravated by something. If there's a family member or a friend, I talked about this on a podcast a couple of weeks ago. I had a friend who I've been friends with it for a number of years, but every time that I went to pick up the phone or I would see them call, or like I knew that they were coming over, I would get this like heaviness. And I'd be like, ugh. I have two choices at that point. One, accept that person how they are and just offer them love and support and my ability to be present in that moment. Or two, accept that I am not the best version of myself when I'm with them, and therefore I'm not such a good friend, and remove myself from that relationship in a loving way, to not where I'm like, listen, you and I can't hang out anymore, but it's maybe that I just say like, hey, I'm available from this time to this time to talk, or this time to this time to hang out, and just be aware of what that conversation is probably going to be. But the noise that's not like, if you have a job that you hate going to, don't go there anymore. If you have a relationship that you're not happy anymore in, don't go there anymore. I was actually on a call, KB. I had a very hard day yesterday. I don't know if Joe told you, KB, what happened.
Yeah.
One of our business partners suddenly passed away yesterday.
Oh,
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. And this was a beautiful person who we talked to on a daily basis, and just like that, gone. And not the typical, no drugs, no alcohol, no pre-existing condition. Like it was no car accident. It was just gone. And one of the things that I can say about this person is that this person lived their life with purpose, on purpose. And they didn't have a lot of noise. Every person in this person's life, they loved and they adored, and they were really, filled with just love and compassion, and just such an amazing person. And so when I heard of his passing yesterday, I was very sad, but I was also knew that I could be at peace, because this person lived with so much intention and love that I knew that they died full. They didn't leave any stone unturned. Like their significant other knew how they felt about them. I knew how they felt about me. Joe knew how he felt about him. So though it's sad and it was untimely, and we don't know why certain things happen, I at least was able to be at peace knowing that this person like lived their life to the fullest.
he left on empty.
Yeah.
Yes, they left on empty.
Yeah. 100%.
Absolutely. Hey, Maritsa, I think those 5 steps are awesome. First of all, thank you for sharing that. I think this is gold, something we can apply today. Definitely drinking more water. I try to walk around with a gallon of water. Sometimes I'll get through half of it, but if I don't carry it with me, I won't drink it. So I force myself to fill it up every morning and just carry it around with me. Sleep, that's something that my wife, she's here right now, Shanier, something we both have to work on. And that's a tough one though, because we have long days, man. And sometimes most of the time, we don't get home till like 9 o'clock, put the girls to sleep, but then that's the time that we have together to watch a Netflix show, our favorite show or whatever. And 11 o'clock, sometimes even 12 comes around and we're still awake, So definitely put more conscious effort on that. The healthy fats, that's a tough one. We all love to eat, man. And so eating healthy fats, I definitely have to find a good list to focus on. Avocados, I'm not a big fan of avocados unless it's in the guacamole.
So, okay. Do you eat typical Colombian food?
Well, I am Colombian, so.
Yeah. So that's what I was saying. You eat like the rice and beans and plantains and.
Oh yeah,
Perfect.
plantains.
So you just add a little oil, add a little stuff to that. You can add some nuts in there. So like I do like rice and beans with like plantains. I know you don't eat the avocado, but I'll put avocado on top of it with some pico de gallo and some like grilled onions, and like that's like a whole meal.
Okay, all right, yeah, I can do that. Okay, great. So
Mix
that's
the avocado in soup. You can actually, okay, I gotta check for you. You guys drink protein shakes
yes.
or smoothies? Protein is very important too. So when you make your protein shake in the morning, if you scoop out the avocado, you just add it to the shake. It'll just thicken up the consistency to make it more like a milkshake. But now you
You
have
don't
your
taste
healthy
it?
half a day. No.
Ah, okay, I'm gonna definitely try that then. And the last two, Maritza, I think they're amazing. And I'm glad that you brought them up because we do preach that a lot here in more homes. It's like you got to give yourself. Well, I wrote it wrong. I give yourself a plan, which makes sense too. But you said give yourself some time. And I think that's so important, man, because we're all guilty of it. I've gotten heck of a lot better, especially now at a broker level, to become more organized. But giving yourself a plan, man, because I always say if you don't have a plan every single day, it's like you have randomness in motion. And when you have randomness in motion, it causes confusion. And then therefore you're going to have frustration. Then you come back home feeling defeated, But the last one that you said correlates to the fourth one. And I'm going to tell you why, because a lot of us, we create the plan, right? KB is one of the ones that says, hey, Edison, one thing that I like about you is that you're always present. Right? Because if I'm going to be in this meeting right now with you guys, I don't care who's calling me. The world could be falling apart. I am here right now.
Right.
And I want to give you my undivided attention. I want to learn from you. And I want to see what I can get out from you. And if I can bring you some value, I would love to bring you value as well. Right. But a lot of us fall into that trap that, hey, okay, so I know I got a prospect for 3 hours today, right? I got to make my phone calls, whatever, right? That is the core of my business, is to talk to people, talk to strangers, right? But what ends up happening is, like you said, noise, right? Something comes up, is pulling me this way. A deal's falling apart, it pulls me that way. My spouse is calling me this way. And then we fail to complete the task that we were doing. So we have like these halfway built bridges all throughout the day that are not connecting anywhere. You see what I'm saying?
So can I connect that for you at the back end and tell you what I do at the end of the day? So I'm gonna just pick up a random piece of paper, and it just happens to be my daughter's artwork that's here. So the way that we bridge the gap is we'll say, okay, like here's where I am, here's what I want to accomplish. So in the middle is everything that I have to do to get from here to here, right? So when I fall short of here, so at the end of the day, I have a checklist, right? I have a checklist of everything that I wanted to do. And I have a physical checklist. So I go through, and the things that I don't check off, Edison, what I do is I circle them. And then I write down what happened specifically that made it so I didn't accomplish my goal, right? If my goal is to wake up every morning at 3:35 in the morning, and I get up at 3:45 or 3:35 and I hit snooze for 10 minutes, and I noticed that 10 minutes caused me to feel rushed, which then made it so that I didn't meal prep, that then made it I didn't do this and that. I know at 3:35 my ass is out of bed. If I know that I didn't if I didn't hang up my clothes when I'm supposed to hang up my clothes the minute they come out of the laundry, then I have to steam stuff the next day. That leaves me frustrated. I know, hey, Maritza, the minute your clothes are out the laundry, you hang them up. And I put down everything that interrupted my plan. So then now I can play offense on that, so that I make sure that I'm in the zone, that I'm doing what I need to do. And that, guess what? You can't happen tomorrow, because I know you're coming, right? I already see the moves of my distractions before they happen, so I can now then plan accordingly. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. So it's just it's like you are highlighting.
Mm-hmm.
You're literally highlighting your day of where is it, and you're putting conscious effort on it. Like,
Well, it's if you play sports. If you play sports and like you're saying you're playing outside linebacker, right? And your quarterback keeps getting sacked because you're going far left, right? Then, the coach is going to come back. They're going to replay the tape, and they're going to say, hey, do you see what's happening here? Now, the minute that ball is getting ready to get snapped, I need you over here. So now if you know that that's happening, or you can take it into the real estate world, if you know every time that you're getting ready to close a deal that you have an issue with your title company, then you're going to contact your title company before, because you don't want to extend that closing, right? Or whatever is going to happen, because you now can plan for that thing that could happen, so that then you're now preventing that future problem.
What would you say to the people that have a plan? They do it, Okay, great. You want me to create a plan? I'm gonna create the plan, but then they don't execute the plan.
So if you're not executing the plan, I will say that the plan probably doesn't excite you. And that is probably not the right plan for you. Your goals should excite you. I'm not motivated every day to get up and do what I want to do, but I'm not motivated by the process. I'm motivated by the outcome. So in order for me to get the outcome, I have to do the mundane things on a daily basis to achieve my goals. So do I want to get up every morning and get my kids a bottle and like feed them and change diapers and do that? No, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. Fucking tired, right? But you know what I do want? I want healthy, happy kids. So my goal of having healthy, happy kids outweighs the pain in the ass of getting up in the morning and getting up in the middle of the night, So now I'll say this, if you have a real, and you see it, I'm sure with agents that you guys work with who like, maybe it's like a side hustle for them and it's not their thing. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with making money on the side, but those people aren't on this call this morning. Probably those people aren't hustling their ass off and making 3-hour prospect calls. Those people aren't, in the line at, wherever they're getting lunch and passing out their business cards. Those people aren't posting constantly. Those people are just kind of like, if it happens, cool, So your goals should light your ass on fire. It should be so passionate about what you want that sometimes you're going to sit there and you're going to wake up and it's going to be cold. When you live up north, it's cold. You got to get up and you got to go running, but you're going to do it because you got that fight coming up or you're doing this bodybuilding competition or you got to get in shape or you want to just be healthy. You're training for that marathon, whatever it is. Like your goals should wake you up in the middle of the night because you're so excited to achieve them.
Yeah, that's so powerful, man. That's great, and I think that's a great way to to kind of wrap it up. I mean, it's 11:01. Unless anyone has any questions.
Shanir, go for it.
Mute you.
Oh, sorry. Hold on. Let me mute myself. She's right next to me. That's why.
So thank you. Mute the computer.
I'm so sorry. Hold on. There we go.
Okay, ready? Okay, beautiful. So thank you so much. I think I'm like connecting so much with everything that you're saying. And lately I've been doing a lot of digging spiritually as well. So everything that you've been saying just connects so well with everything that I've been doing as well, with my business and being a mom and being a wife, because it takes a lot of your time and efforts, and it's very draining sometimes. So you have to do a lot of like inner work so that you don't drive yourself crazy. Like you said, you kind of had that panic attack. And I feel like sometimes it overwhelms myself too so much that I'm like, oh my God, like, what am I doing? Like, where do I go? So I have to kind of like look within and just like breathe for a second. And those are things that I'm teaching my daughters as well when they feel overwhelmed. Like, it's okay to feel overwhelmed, but just breathe, take it in, take it step by step, and let's solve the problems, but take it one step at a time, kind of thing. So I feel like what you coming in right now is like such a blessing. So thank you so much. And I would love to invite you, or if we could sit down, because on March 8th is Women's Day next year. So it's still a couple months out. But for more homes, I do want to plan like a Women's Day gathering of like powerful women like yourself to talk to other women in the industry in general on how to balance mom life, entrepreneur life, just everything, because it is difficult sometimes. And I feel like as women getting together to help each other navigate through all of this is very powerful, because having that kind of like guidance and there's a specific word I'm looking for, but it kind of slipped my mind.
Yeah.
But having, that group of women to know that you have like that support within this community, like a community, I think is very powerful, and it'll help a lot of us, because a lot of the women in our brokerage are also mothers, are wives, and sometimes it's difficult to balance both of them, because it is very demanding to be out on the field, but then to also, you know, take care of the kids and
Well,
everything.
especially in your industry, because your industry is very right now. Everything's right now.
Yeah, and like
I wanna go
clients
see
can
a house
come like,
now, and it's so
yeah.
competitive, you know?
So I would love if whenever you have a chance or to get your information,
Yeah.
if you can talk about
I'll send it to you,
creating
Sam.
an event like that.
Oh, sure.
Because that's exactly what you're talking about, is what I have envisioned for that event, is talking to women and reaching them in that kind of way, to let them know that it's okay, and how to connect with yourself, and, you know, thinking about yourself first and healing yourself and putting yourself first, so that you can be a better version of yourself for your kids, for your spouse, and for your business.
And that's a conversation that doesn't happen a lot. And I will tell you, so our kids in the house are 14, just turned 6 and 3. And this is a picture of my son that just popped up on my timeline. But you can
Oh, wow.
see he's meditating.
Oh,
And the thing is that I don't tell them to do these things. Let's see. I don't tell them to do these things. They just get up and do them now, because they know that when they're having a hard day, that it makes them feel better to breathe and to connect with breath. And I show them, feel your belly rise and fall, and do the different things. So your children are watching you guys.
Yes.
Your children are watching you, your friends are watching you. I actually just, I got off the phone with a woman who's a nurse practitioner this morning, and she's watching me. And she told me this morning, she goes, hey, I wanted you to know that for the past 2 weeks, I've gotten up and I've been at the gym at 5 a.m. every day. I'm part of the 5 a.m. crew. And she's like a new mom, and she's got her own business. So like exactly what you're talking about. And I'm like, I love that. Like, sometimes we don't even know we're supporting people on their journey just by the way that we're being, and they just see the way that we're being, and they're like, yeah, I'm going to do that. And so I'd love to be a part of whatever.
For sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you,
I
Shamir.
was listening to a podcast the other day, and one of the guys taught, it was a guy, because it was him talking about how sometimes with men, it's difficult to express their emotions, and him growing up, he was talking about how he never knew what kind of version of his father he would get when his father came home. His father would come home, and sometimes it would be okay, but sometimes his father would come home and he would bring the stress from work and take it out on the kids, and kids would just be kids, just like, hi, daddy, how are you? But then he'd be so stressed, and like any little thing would trigger him, like just not, he said even little things like not squeezing the toothpaste right would trigger him. And those little things that you're just like, oh my, those that he never realized, like now it's something that he's trying to heal within himself. But, if we can try to teach our kids not to learn how to deal with it, with those triggers, or to learn how to deal with those emotions, girls and boys, so that they're not that, and not have to deal with it as adults, would be so much better. And I mean, like I said, with women in general, for March, I think it would be great what you have to bring to the table. So I think,
Absolutely.
yes, let's do it.
And I just want to point out, it's really funny because I can only see the OM behind you, which is our company, OM.
Oh, that's
Oh,
right.
yeah?
It's really funny. So I'm looking at that. But yeah, emotional regulation, and I'm sure Joe talked about it. It's the I over E, like it's the emotional regulation, and teaching ourselves how to emotionally regulate, and understanding as parents that, if I'm yelling and screaming at my kids, then that becomes an expectation that I'm a yelling and screaming parent. And we don't recognize it sometimes that it is abusive. And we want, like I said, I want to be the best version of myself. So it encourages you to be the best version of yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that's important, because if I show up loving myself and loving you, and, like we have a meditation class here on Monday nights. And the one thing that I do at the end of the meditation class is I go around and I touch everyone on their back shoulders. And at the end of the class, and I like squeeze him really tight and I say like, I love you and I support you and I'm here for you.
Wow.
And as we go around,
Powerful.
I mean, some people have never heard that,
Hmm.
you know, and it
That's
becomes
powerful.
very emotional for them because to have somebody touch you and say like, I love you.
I
and
get chills, like that's crazy. I'm getting
Yeah.
chills.
It's so funny, Maritza. Like when I got to more homes, I think Edison will admit this. I came with the I love you. And they're like, what? Still, man. Like, and not many men, and not everyone walks around saying I love you. But even my own family, my in-laws, never like I went to my story, and that's another day, another hour. But I learned that when you come from the vibration of love, it just you coming from a sincere intention of love, and to say to somebody, I love you. Most people are not uncomfortable, right? Uncomfortable even hearing that, let alone say it back to someone else. And I think we should do more of that. So that's an amazing story.
You
Quickly,
should bring your
Michelle.
class to Orlando.
Yeah,
Yes.
I love Orlando.
We-
We're in Orlando almost every other weekend, believe it or not.
Oh,
I'll
you
actually
should-
be in Orlando this weekend.
Wow.
Oh my God.
We
Yes.
should have a podcast in our office with you.
I would love
Michelle,
that.
Michelle, you have a question and you have amazing questions. You're muted, Michelle. What?
I usually do, but I don't today. I don't have any questions.
Nice,
It was
gotcha.
great.
Awesome.
Appreciate
Rafaela,
it.
anyone else?
It's awesome.
I
Guys,
do.
go
I
for it.
do. Sorry, I don't have my camera on today, but thank you so much, Maritza. I think your story is amazing. You're an amazing badass,
Thank you.
badass superwoman. I'm a mother too. You know, I have a 10-year-old, and I think what you were talking about, going through what you went through at an early age with the hurricane and being displaced and things like that. And, you know, your parents did the best that they could, right? With probably keeping you occupied, taking you here, taking you there. But you said your emotional needs weren't being met. Can you touch a little bit upon that, and how would you do it differently if your kids were going through trying times?
Sure. So I do believe that my son, my older son kind of did during COVID. So he's homeschooled now. So what happened for me is at 10 years old, I really didn't understand emotions. I just felt things, right? Like, and I didn't even know what I was feeling. I didn't know if it was happy or sad, you know, because it just feelings, right? And because my parents didn't, they weren't expressing themselves because they were just in rebuild mode, rebuild. I'm assuming, and again, I can only go back to my child mind. I'm assuming now looking back at my younger self that maybe I didn't feel safe expressing how I felt because I felt like it would be a burden. So even if they were to say like, hey, what's going on with you? And I might respond like, oh, no, nothing. I'm fine. You know, that typical response, because maybe I didn't feel safe in expressing myself and how I truly felt. Like I'm like sad would be maybe what I felt. So the way that I support my children is with my babies, it's a little bit different with my teenager. With my babies, I really encourage them to express themselves, however that looks, if it looks like screaming. So I'm also a bioenergetics practitioner where we like work through the body to express emotions, which could mean like I encourage them to do a bed tantrum or to scream as loud as they can. And whatever that looks like, cry, like if you need to, like energy and motion, just like release whatever you're feeling without holding them back. So I don't grab them to coddle them or anything like that. I just say like express yourself. With my teenager, so he had his first girlfriend and he had his first heartbreak, and you know, he played sports and he didn't make the position on the team that he felt that he should have made. And you know, so things have come up, and as a mom, it's hard to watch because you never want to see the children that you love so much hurting. But I also encourage him to talk about it. And I allow him to, so like recently he didn't get chosen on the position of the basketball team that he felt he should have. And when we were talking about it, he became very upset and started crying and yelling. And I said, it's okay to be pissed off. It's
Yeah.
okay to not be happy. Like that, like nobody's saying you have to be happy 100% of the time, but
Mm.
I also bring it back to him and I say, like, what can you do to prevent that from happening again? Do you feel that you need to work harder? Do you need to train harder? Can I support you in getting you a coach that will help you with basketball? Can I support you? Is it your mindset? Is it your emotional regulation? You know, when you're on the bench, if you're kicking things around and you're not engaging in the team, like your coach sees that. So I kind of like point things out to them, but I'm also supportive. And I
Yeah.
remember my role too, which my role is of mother to him. My role is not of coach. My role is not of therapist. My role is not as a cheerleader. It's as mother, to be loving and supportive. And then it is my, I believe, responsibility to ask him what he feels he needs and then be able to provide those things for him when he's ready to take advantage of it, if that answers your question.
Yes, absolutely. That's amazing. So it's okay to feel sad, right? Like it's okay
Oh,
to let
sure.
emotions if they're heartbroken, even though it's like one of the hardest things for a mother to see, right? Your kid going through that. Um, so yes, no, no, thank you for that. Because lots of times it's like we want to just kind of like stuff it down, stuff it down. Everything's okay here. We're keeping on our lives, right?
I encourage them to, like, when you're feeling sad, like one of the things I encourage you to do is lean into the emotion. Because this is how we start doing drugs and how we start, you know, having, you know, behavior that's dangerous is, you know, whether it's sex or stealing, is because we're trying to avoid emotion. We're trying to avoid pain. Pain is part of the process.
Yeah.
Sometimes life is not full of flowers and rainbows. You know, in fact, you need the rain to have the rainbow. You know, you need the broken plant to get the seed, you know. So when we're sad, we should lean into the emotion and experience it, face it, embrace it, replace it, is what I use. It's like, okay, I'm experiencing this and it hurts and I'm okay. I'm okay. And loving myself and supporting myself to that better overall well-being, because then that's going to give me the tools that when this happens again, I know in my heart that this is only temporary and I've been there before. Because if every time mom runs in or dad runs in or friend runs in with, you know, solution, it doesn't give me the opportunity to grow through it, if that makes sense.
Right. Right. Amazing. Thank you so much,
Wow.
Marissa.
That's deep.
I can't wait to come visit your center.
Oh, I'm so excited. I invite you guys here. It's such a beautiful space. I just sit here and listen to jazz music all day long and write copy.
Yeah, and I was saying once again, Joe had offered a Black Friday special for the event in January.
Yes.
Please let me know by tonight and we can let her know. It's 50% off. So I'm scheduled to be in Atlanta with family. My wife booked it a month ago. However, I'm willing to participate cost for those that want to go. So if you're interested to go, text me. I'll do what I can, and I'll talk to Marissa and Jill. We'll get you guys out there. South Florida is my home, and I wish I can go this time, but next year I'll probably go there. And then yeah.
I don't know if he explained the whole event, but I'll send you, KB, like the whole breakdown. So this is my favorite event to do every year. It's very near and dear to my heart. We've had over almost close to 200 people in one of our events. And I said, like, never again will I do it that big, because I like the intimacy of a smaller group. But we start off the day with like meditation, restorative yoga, sound bowl healing. Then the first 2 days is mindset. I bring in a catered lunch. It's at a beautiful facility with a beautiful pool that you can set up by the day. There's saunas, showers, whatever you need. And then in the evening, one of the days, so we have like a VIP upgrade, where on our third day, you either come in from 9 to noon at the wellness center or 2 to 5, where we're doing IV therapy, compression therapy. Like, you actually get to use the whole wellness center, and we have it like set up in sections. So we break it apart, the 2 groups. So half the group comes in the morning, half the group will come in the evening, who do the VIP upgrade. And we're offering it that also, I don't know if he told you, we're offering that also to your group at 50% off.
Guys, just Marissa, do me a favor, send me like a PDF and
I'll
then
send you everything.
beautiful, and then I can share with the team and get an answer today. And like I said, I think one of you guys already texted me. You're interested. Beautiful. I'm gonna get with you. I'm gonna help you with the ticket on me for you guys and anyone else here. There he is, my man, my brother, my hero. How you doing, Joe?
Good, how are you?
Look at him. He walks around with women's hair ties on his,
My daughter, I had to do her hair this morning.
Listen, I have two. You know, our daughters have very similar age. I think yours like a year younger than mine. And your
Yeah.
son is a year older than my daughter. So I have two daughters back to back. We're back to back. I
I
remember.
keep telling him we should have one more before he turns 50.
Stop
My
that
wife
talk.
said the same thing. She's saying the same thing. God help you girls, man. I don't know how women can do it, man. I don't know. Yeah.
Well,
But
thank
Joe,
you
know
guys
books
so
too.
much.
Yeah. I love you guys. Thank you so much for joining, Maritsa.
Real quick question, I did
Yes,
think
go
of
for it.
one. Hey, just, what book, like, what's your favorite book that you recommend just off the top of your head?
So I love the book and I'll send it to you. I'll add a link. So when I send KB everything, I'll add a link because I actually have a free version of it and a PDF version. It's called The
Okay.
Presence Process. And I love it because it's like if somebody's not feeling well and somebody feels unloved and some unsupported and love's not working, what do you do? And they're like double the dose. So The Presence Process is an incredible book, both on Audible as well as on in the PDF version. And I'll send you everything because I like books that give you actionable steps to take place in. So this is a book where it's like book, action. And then of course, my other favorite book, of course, is Bad.
You
Stars
go,
to
stop.
Beyond.
That was I was gonna jump in and say that.
I was hoping.
I was about to hear. Let me show you quickly.
Yeah,
There you
Michelle.
go, right here. There you go.
Ah,
There
I
you
love this
go.
picture. I love this.
But yeah,
Awesome.
I
but
got a
yeah,
copy
Michelle,
coming.
the presence process is really, really good. And I'll add it all. And there's an app for it too, and I'll just send it to you. And it's something that I incorporate in my daily life. And that's why I feel so strongly about it because it's as I continue to evolve as a being of this earth. I never, like 20 years ago, I would have never said that. It was sound
I know.
right? I'm like, as a being of this earth, I would have been like, she's weird. But as I continue to evolve, it's been a book that has really spoken to me, and I've been able to utilize the tools like when I'm growing through something, and just helping me to just love myself and love the place I'm in a little more.
That's beautiful.
Awesome, thank you. And
You're
I,
beautiful,
I'm
Maritsa. Thank you so much.
I really hope to see you guys in January.
Yes, I would love that.
Yeah, Michelle, call me. I'll take care of that. I'll help you out.
All right,
Love you
guys.
guys.
Thank
All
you
right,
so
Okay,
much.
yeah, I'm looking forward to getting everything and super.
All righty. Thank you,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye, guys.
Bye,
Thanks.
guys. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, KB. I'll talk to you later.
All right, I'll call you in a bit. Thank you.